Welcome to week 2 of Advanced Rapier. This week, we're going to do some hands-on work. We're going to look at a bit of the texts and put 2 and 2 together. And we're going to be focusing on the guards. So we're going to be trying to refine Fabrus's postures. We'll look at a couple of new ones that you may not have seen before, or at least not seen them in class before. We'll work on some guard transitions, which is going to be really the meat of things. Let's see, got some chat going on here. All right, so people are taking drink orders. All right, that's cool. Okay, so before we start, and is Sydney here? Don't see her. Okay. Okay, so I do know some people who are not amongst the companion and scholar ranks. You are welcome to sit in on the class. Be advised that certain amount of knowledge and skill levels are assumed here. So you're welcome to ask questions, but this is going to be pretty much focused on the work that the companions and scholars need to be doing. Okay, so first off, last week we worked on some cutting mechanics. Didn't assign any particular homework, but if anybody wants to show me something that they've been working on, raise your hand or, chat or something. Crickets. Awesome. Okay. So did everybody, I put the, in the class description on the calendar, I put down that you should have looked over the first Fabrus plates 1 through 20, and that, with the accompanying text. So that was basically your reading assignment. Does anybody have any observations, questions, or comments about this to begin with?
Yes, in plate 17, the lunge in quarta looks less profiled than we usually do it.
Yes, it does. Yep, and the illustrations are not perfect.
Sure.
You will see other lunges of quarta in the action plates that look very profiled. And you also have the master's words saying that, talking about how the lunge of quarta is a natural void that completely takes away the left side. So from this, we infer it's pretty profiled.
So you think this is an illustration issue?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
One of the last things he tells you in the books is that the illustrations aren't exactly what he would have liked.
Sure.
And there are a lot of issues with where the feet are positioned. There are issues with the supposed mirror images. The left side, right side views being they're doing exactly the same thing, and there are some obvious discrepancies where they're not doing exactly the same thing. And when that is the case, we tend to, or at least I try to look at the version that makes the most sense with how he describes the guard and the action, and with the properties that he assigns to those guards. So let's here. Let me bring up. One second here. Okay, I'm just gonna share. Where is it? There we go. Okay, So right off the bat, we've got prima. Let's move on a bit. So for instance, you know that the way we do prima, there's a decided rotation of the body, and you see that here in his well-formed prima. Although look at the shoulders. Over on the left, you see his left shoulder is decidedly farther forward than his right, and it's the reverse on the left, right? So which of these? Well, if that rotation of the body is indeed what we're supposed to be doing, it does tend to advance the left shoulder a little bit more. So now it's just going to be a matter of how much. We know that from the previous illustration that he thinks of prima as refusing the right shoulder a little bit more. This is the more natural prima. As he goes to his well-formed prima, he's extending everything much more into the line. And he will be extending that right shoulder more or less, depending on exactly what the situation in front of him is. Right? Just move ahead here. Again, we see the same thing in his well-formed seconda, right? One looks, they both look sort of square. Over here on the right looks a little bit more advanced to the left side. Over on the left looks a bit more advanced with the right side. Now he does tell you that he wants you when you're lunging or attacking in seconda, he wants that right side coming forward. Whether does not actually say whether or not that is the case in the guard. So what's the takeaway here? There's not one way to do anything. And that's something that we saw from the last Faber's reading class we did where he was talking about all the different ways of holding the arm. And he's not married to any of them. He tells you that everything is right for the correct situation. So there's not just one, no form of his guards are cast in stone. Right? At least that's what I'm taking away from this. As long as you understand what it is the guard is about, what line is closing, what line is strengthening, how the body is structured behind the weapon, then it's up to you to modify what you're doing as the situation dictates. Right? Here's another case. There are a couple of terzas, right? One looks almost square and the other looks very three-quarter profile. And again, there, right? And these are probably some of his best illustrations of his well-formed terza. He tells you that, well, actually, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but one thing he tells you with this particular guard is that it is very safe inside and out. Inside, it is safe because the flank is held away. Outside, it is safe because the sword is very much aligned with the right flank. So by that, I would infer that the position on the left side is a little bit more accurate because it's a little bit more, there's more body refusal on the inside. If you were totally square in terza, I would consider this to be not as safe a guard to the inside. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's bringing your hip forward. It makes your hip more of a target. It makes your left non-dominant side more of a target.
Yeah, and we were talking about seconda. Seconda, we tend to we try to place ourselves on the outside as much as possible. And if we're placing ourselves on the inside, it's more of an invitation. But terza, what we know is that it's the guard that is used to find the sword and to control the line inside or outside, which is the point he makes here. And if that is the case, then you would want to be more, want to be safer on the inside. One common thread throughout all of this is he wants to be very, very strong in the line that he's covering and very, very refused in the line that he's not. Right? And we see this throughout. Well-formed quartet, for instance. Right? All right. Okay. So yeah, there are going to be discrepancies. I mean, hell, look at the feet here, right? There are going to be discrepancies, but we have to approach them intelligently, by taking them into the entire context, and most of all, reading his words. Right? There are no perfect fencing illustrations, at least not, at least not in these centuries. But these are probably some of the most perfect that we've got from this particular period in time. Okay, any other comments, questions?
So I got one on the
About plate 9.
Plate 9.
Sorry, my bandwidth is a little low, so I'm experiencing a little bit of lag. One, it looks familiar, seeing as how not just for that it looks familiar from other things, but seeing other people fence with it. And he talks about some of the strengths of this guard in the course of the text, but doesn't really seem to get into it in too detail. So my questions were like, what are some of the strengths? Like I could hypothesize it's a little more threatening in some ways psychologically because you're pointing at the opponent's face. Maybe it could in some cases make gaining or finding the sword a little easier, but like, I don't think he would include it there without reason. It just doesn't seem, he didn't seem to go into the reasons of why this is a strong guard, more about why this is a weak guard, and why this is weak is obvious. It's more easily gained. The Cavazzionis are bigger. It's weaker underneath it. You can go on and on about it. But why is it strong? Can it be strong?
So first off, let me just say that the reason he includes it is to tell you he's got something better. Right? Every single one of the 4 guards, he gives you a natural version, what we call a natural version, and he does occasionally. He actually calls this, he does call this a natural terza. And he gives you his well-formed version. So in that sense, this is kind of a, hey guys, this is my lesson to you. Here are guards that you're seeing, and here's how I'm going to improve on them. This is, as we talked about this guard a couple of weeks ago, and during the last Fabris discussion class. This guard is what would be the early 17th century version of the very standard sword forward guard. It's a direct descendant of Codalonga in the Bolognese school. Right? It's a natural way of holding the sword, and if nothing else, Rabin, it being a natural way to hold the sword is one of its strengths, because the more natural something is, the stronger you are, right? If you extend your sword forward in a straight line with your arm, you are creating some definite geometrical strengths, but and also structural strength for the thrust. But in terms of manipulating your sword, you have to work a lot harder, right? And he makes that point in the chapter we looked at the other week. So right away, it's natural, so it's easier. He talks about all the weaknesses, like you said, right? It's a huge opening. The Cavazioni are huge, and that right off the bat, that speaks to 2 of his main concerns. He wants your sword to be as agile as possible, right? and as be able to move nimbly from line to line. So that's one reason why he favors a straighter guard. And he wants you to be as covered as possible. And his postures, his very forward postures, they're very much a matter of being as covered as possible behind your sword. All the natural guards leave a big opening through the sword. In the case of Prima, the way he performs his Prima with the arm fairly refused, the forte isn't even anywhere near where he wants it to be. In this case, with this terza, the forte is more forward. But if somebody attacks you through your debole, your forte is still pretty far away from the line of attack. This, by the way, is the guard where he tells us what he considers an opening to be. He tells you, look at the point, look at the body, draw a straight line from point to body. Now look at how far away the hand is from that line. All right, so that's where we get that the triangular window opening concept. Okay, so its strengths, and he doesn't go into it, but they're mostly tactical. All natural guards, they're big honking openings. What does that tell you tactically?
Well, then you know where the opponent is going to go to try and push your sword out of the way.
And knowing what your opponent's going to try to do is 3/4 of the battle, ain't it?
Yep.
So what tactical technique can be performed with a guard like this? Here, let me show you a different version of the same tactical technique. That's plate 6. It's what we call the window seconda, because it's creating a window for the opponent to attack through, right?
Right.
And does it look like it's particularly defensive? You see what's happening, right? The sword is pointing off to the side.
Right.
Right.
Sorry, you cut. It cut out for me for a second. That's all.
Okay. Okay. So what would you say this guy is doing?
I mean, he's inviting them. He's
Bingo.
inviting the opponent to come in. Yeah.
Bingo. It's an invitation. Anytime you're offering a path through your own sword, you are inviting. If you are inviting and he takes the bait, then there's a huge number of things that you can do about that, right? I mean, voiding is an obvious one.
Right.
And voids work best when they're part of a pre-planned when they're part of a pre-planned response to an expected attack. That's really what creating an invitation is all about. This is the same thing as the seconda you just saw, but the terza version, right? One thing to realize about this is that the angle is not straight up because it's a very natural terza. And as we've seen in class, natural terzas tend to slant off towards the inside because that's the natural way that the sword hand sits when you hold it out. Right? The sword tends to go off to the inside. And again, we see this in the Bolognese system as well. Okay, so it's an invitation. What else have we used this for in class? Anybody? And I'm talking about novice class now, right? And in fact, I would say fairly recently as well.
The old sword finding drill.
The old sword finding drill. What do you mean?
Right, to train the basic attack sequence to provide a large opening to take with a conventional.
Oh, I see
attack.
what you mean. I see what you mean. Okay, no, that's not what I mean. But I mean, yes, that is this. But So your opponent, you want to find your opponent's sword, but it's a little low for you to find it from from a line from the shoulder or a line from the elbow, right? So you can drop your hand. Now, remember, this is a natural guard, so it is actually mechanically stronger if you hold the sword in a natural place. If your sword is aligned with your arm, let me do this. If your sword is aligned with your arm, right, and your grip is actually can push down into your grip, this force can go down into this, and you can put your opponent's blade under your forte, and if he tries to put any pressure on your blade, you can simply put your weight down into it. Right? So it is stronger in that way. Right? This is more nimble, right? And I can find the sword. I can come up from below his sword, from the elbow, maybe even from the shoulder if I get low enough. Right? But this line is not as strong. If I want to push down on his blade, it's not as strong as pushing down this way. Right? Because here I am pushing down with my shoulder. Here I'm pushing down with my weight. So it's stronger in that way. It's mechanically stronger. This is not something that Fabris dwells on, but it is. I mean, it's a mechanical fact. Like as you notice, he doesn't always elaborate on strengths and weaknesses. He tends to focus on what he wants you to do more than anything else. So it's mechanically stronger. It's a good invitation. Somebody else throw out something. What do you think? What do you think? Why would this be stronger? What do all angles have?
Strong sides.
Bingo. So if I want to yield around his sword, would this be a good way to do it? Okay. So here I am. Here I am in my lovely, well-formed terza, and he goes to find my sword on the inside, and I simply do a little adjustment. He's still on my inside, and I have just denied him the find because now he's coming on my strong side. I haven't done that much different. I've exposed myself a little bit more, but if he comes to find me, and I step in with that terza, that's a very strong action. So, in other words, he's telling you even the weakest guards have got advantages. Even the weakest guards have strengths, right? This is not a good guard to be your basic guard to stand in, which it is a very basic guard to stand in. The first thing, Rabin, you said was, I've seen that a lot. Right? This is how people tend to stand. When I first looked at this book, and I first saw this plate, I went, this is it. This is the guard. This is why I wanted to see it all along. And then I flipped the page. Oh, that's what he wants me to do. Right? Because this looks so natural, so comfortable. I can even reconcile myself to the extreme forward posture with this natural guard. But no, he wants you to do that. And my heart sank until I learned to love it. All right. Okay. So Rabin, does that more or less answer your question?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Anything else, guys?
I have a quick question on plate number 5, one of the other alternative secondas.
Oh, yes. I actually didn't put that in my PowerPoint slides because I wasn't going to touch on it, but go ahead.
I mean, it kind of looks like the funky chicken of secunda, at least the guy on the left.
Yes, it does.
So I'm assuming this is the sort of thing that is covered at the scholar level as part of the feints and invitations fun stuff that we don't get yet.
Right.
Is so obviously for the 6th plate, we don't cover that at all, at least not intentionally at the companion level, and certainly not at the novice level. For plate 5, whatever it is that one wants to call that, to what extent?
Funky Seconda is actually canon.
Great. To what extent do we get into the Funky Seconda sort of as an extension of or in relation to a really, really deep void of Seconda? Because it kind of looks that way if you squint hard enough, and I'm wondering if there's a relationship between those two or whether it's really accidental.
Okay, first off, it's not an action, it is a guard, right? It's a guard that he wants you to, let me call it up. Let me get it up here really quickly. Okay. There it is. Okay, so yeah, this is actually a position that you are going to stand in, not for very long. This is basically another type of invitation, right? And I mean, it's a very specific guard with a very specific set of associated techniques. Now, with a lot of these weird guards, he actually gives you a plate later on that shows you the thing he wants you to do out of it. He doesn't here, but he does explain it fairly well. So what's going on here is, so you may remember when we talked about how to hold the sword, that one reason to pull the sword back is to keep him from finding your sword, right? Now, here, what he's doing is he's giving you a choice, right? Now I mentioned one specific way of giving an invitation, giving a path through your sword. There's another type of invitation. It's giving a path to my body that does not have to go through my sword. Here's an example. I'm in guard, hi, right? So you don't have to deal with my sword at all. You can simply attack my body. Right? That is actually one of the standard modern examples of an invitation. And it works a lot better with light foils because it's a much more less obvious action than it is with a heavy rapier. Right? You hold a heavy rapier and you take your point away. It's kind of obvious what you're doing. This is a little less obvious because you're always pointing at him. But one thing you're doing is that while not really moving your weapon, you are moving your body so it's no longer behind your weapon. So what does that do? It gives your opponent a choice. You can go and control my weapon, or you can come and attack me. Right? I am deliberately separating my body from my weapon, and not only that, but I'm refusing both, so that he has to come and get me. He has to either come and get my sword or come and get my body. Either way, I have a move. Right? It's his move, but as soon as he makes it, I go. Right? So if he's pointing at me, I go that way. If he goes to find my sword, I go this way. And this guard is set up for that. Right? So it is essentially an invitation. Like all invitations, it's not meant for you to hang out there. It's meant for you to draw him in. In fact, I think he even says you form this guard gradually. And as soon as, once you have completely formed the guard, if your opponent, because you pulled your sword away so much, if your opponent's point even just crosses your own, you're in measure. He may not realize it, but you're in measure. So now you're set up for an explosive pass, either on the inside or the outside. or under. So that's what that guard is about. It's about drawing him in and forcing him to make a choice. That's if he actually, comes at you. If he doesn't come at you, then you change what you're doing. Okay? And so, yeah, that's one of the first fun things that you'll learn as a scholar. The window seconda, that really is just a really good gross example of the other kind of invitation, right? Because, I mean, nowadays everybody knows it, so nobody falls for it. But, it really is a matter of, hey, dummy. But it's a very good, it's a very good exemplar, because in exaggerated form, it really presents all the important elements of an invitation. Here, let me get rid of this. What's everybody seeing on my screen right now?
The Fabre's posture.
Which one?
The one that we were just talking about, Funky
Okay.
Secunda.
Secunda.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I want to change that. There we go. Okay. So going back to this one. Nope, not that one. Oh, crap. There we go. There we go. Yeah. So, so this seconda, what we call the window seconda, it's a really good exemplar, because look at it. The body is very, very advanced. You are giving an obvious path through your own sword, but there really is only one path. Right? There is nothing available under the sword. The only thing that can possibly be hit, that you could possibly get close enough to hit, is over the sword, and that's the face. And look at where my left hand is. So basically, I'm setting up a hand parry, and the follow through, which he actually shows you, looks like. Whoops! Actually, I had it right there, didn't I? That. So as he makes that attack for your face, you simply parry it down to your right, to your left, and pass in by straightening your seconda. So the important thing is that this guard only presents one possible target and presents it in as inviting a way as possible. And that's really the essence of an invitation. And of course, the rest is when, what moment do you choose to present your invitation? So Fabris has a number of guard variations. He presents you with the natural form of the guard, which is how he sees most people doing it, with his own personal, forward lean. He then shows you what he considers the well-formed version of each of these guards. And then for some of them, he gives you some variations. With seconda, with terza, with quarta. Quarta has some of the funkiest, because they're not as immediately clear. We'll look at them at the end. One that I really want to look at, because this is a really good one to transition to. So we have our well-formed terza, and then the very next plate we have the refused version of terza. And we've seen this, we've done this. This is used to free your sword, right? By simply dropping your point. Now we've we've done that in class where we just drop the point right under the sword. This is a little bit more exaggerated. But the important thing here is that, again, this is a guard. The point is forward. I am dropping it to free it, but because it's no longer protecting me, I now have to completely remove my body. So point goes down, body goes back. You can't reach me unless you step forward. But guess what? I've broken measure with my body. I have not broken it with my feet. So you step forward, you're stepping right into my, assuming we start in wide measure, you are now stepping into my narrow measure. And that's the fun part. And of course, because this is also a type of invitation, there are all sorts of things that I could do other than attack the high line. I could perform many voids. If he tries to go high, I can go low. You know, whole bunch of things. One thing, one good example is the way we've used it in class. Right? He finds me, I drop my point. He drops his hand to find me again, and so up comes my point, and I attack through him. Right? As in this plate, like that. That is plate 22, I believe. Okay, how are we doing for time? All right, so does anybody else have any questions about the text, or shall we move on? Okay. Okay, so if you got some room to move, go ahead. I suggest holding something in your hand, something to simulate a sword. A dagger will probably be okay. If you got room for a sword, go ahead and do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to form natural guards and then transition from them into well-formed guards so that we feel the differences, right? And then we'll just make some guard transitions, and there's going to be some specific ones that I want you guys to work on. Okay. Okay. Okay, so start from neutral. Sword in your scabbard, or simulating it, and we're going to draw to that natural prima, which is the first thing that you see. So here, let me do it from the side, right here, and there. Now the reason my hand is out here, my left hand, is because that's really all I've got to defend myself right now, other than my point. My forte has been is pulled back just about to where my head is. Right? It's not out here, it's here, and there's a lot of space there for me to make a parry. One of the reasons the shoulder is turned forward so much is because my hand's got to be there to protect myself. So from neutral, I'm going to step back with my left foot, but I'm not going to take it back very far. Both of these primas are in a very, very narrow pace. And prima. Okay. Front. And prima. Now don't get the arm out here, right? Keep it right by your head. Now from here, we're going to transition to the well-formed prima. So what I'm going to do is basically just pull in this hand and extend this one out into a straight line with my shoulder, right there. Now you want to make this line of sword and arm as straight as you can. Let me do it with sword, be able to clear it. I think we all understand the reason why, right? Prima has a natural tendency to drop, and that, of course, can be beaten down very easily. Natural, well-formed. Natural, well-formed. All right. Let me just see that transition a few times with everybody. That's good, Alicia. Okay, so Mo. Yeah, the natural form, you're actually pulling it back. Your hand is about where your head is, right? Then you extend out in a straight line from your shoulder. Yeah. Yeah, Rabin, don't pull your left shoulder back when you're going to the well-formed version. Keep it forward. You're just extending your arm along the line of your shoulder. Right? Everything that we know about these guards, everything we practice about these guards, sorry if I'm talking, I'm using my 5 feet back voice. Sorry about that. Everything that we've already know about these guards applies, right? So we know the body rotation in prima. You're just pulling that hand back so it's not a target anymore. That's also, of course, one of the big problems with having to rely on your hand. You tend to stick it out and make a target out of it. Tony, keep your left arm as relaxed as you can in both versions of the guard. Now, as you transition from one to the other, follow the line of your own point, right? So you're not just here. You're not just dropping your sword down, right? There. You are pushing your point forward until everything comes in line with your shoulder. So even if we're going from a not so great position to a better position, we still want to do it in a smooth, a smooth transition that still does the job of a guard. So think of the transition itself as part of the guard, right? In other words, you never want to not be in guard, even and especially when you're transitioning from one to another, because this goes back, to basic theory, and changing guards is a tempo, right? It's one of Delagoquier's five great opportunities to hit somebody when you're changing a guard. So make sure that your guard is protecting you the whole time. And the only way that your natural prima is protecting you, really, is with the point. So make sure that point maintains its defensive position throughout the entire transition. So as you go through these transitions, guys, try to feel what makes this a prima, right? What do we know about prima, right? We know that it tends to angle in a certain direction. We know that it protects the high line. We know that there's a certain turn of the body that's associated with it. So I want you to feel I want you to feel the nature of the guard throughout all its permutations. If at some point it doesn't feel like terza, like prima, the way you know prima, then then look to see what adjustment you can make. Okay, all right, let's move on. And what I just said applies, of course, to all the guards. Okay, okay. Moving on to seconda. Now, the natural form that he shows you is pretty much seconda the way we first learn it, right? It's that. And he prefers that to his prima because the forte is farther forward and it's still kind of in the game, but it's still not as defensive a posture as when he straightens it out. So here, what I want to do here is go ahead and draw to that natural prima, the one that we already know, and go to that very, very straight, sorry, I meant seconda, not prima. Go to that very, very straight seconda. Don't lock out your arm, all right? So don't force it forward. Just get it as relaxed as possible in a straight line out from your shoulder. Body won't be doing anything different. So, come to seconda, the nice narrow pace, although probably not quite as narrow as prima. Now think about what Faber says about this, right? If I'm on your outside, all you see, the only thing that's available to you is the top of my head, right? This should be refused well beyond your reach. Right? So obviously this is all exposed, but the idea is, sorry, I'm trying to get on your outside. So you have to attack over my sword. Here I am coming at you. You're on my outside. If you get to the inside, I'm going to do something else. You go to my outside? No, you don't. All right, now, so the important thing here is keep that arm relaxed. Anybody have any questions? Now let's not remember the body part of the equation. All right? We still need to maintain that structure. One big problem with a lot of secondas is that we tend to lean away with it, right? Seconda, seconda. This is actually easier than terza because our hips are more square, right? So I can just lean my body down in line with my hips. Natural. And again, follow the line of your point as you're straightening everything out. Now try and move around a bit in it, in the very well-formed versions of the guards. Right? We're looking at the high guards right now, and they're definitely more strained than the low guards. He even makes that point. He says prima, your well-formed prima, is just as good as any other guard, except it's a lot more tiring. So you should be able to do anything that you do with any of the low guards. Step, lunge, the whole 9 yards. So let's try drawing to prima. Go to a well-formed, do a little bit of stepping. Then we'll do the same thing with seconda. All right? Give you a couple of seconds. And prima. Well-formed. Go ahead and step. All right? Nice push from the back foot. Keep the front foot light. Then give yourself a nice long lunge with that prima, keeping your arm steady, keeping your point straight. And lunge. And lunge. Go ahead and do that a bit. That's a nice line there, Dan. Rabin, the way you're holding the stick is more of a seconda than a prima, unless you were actually doing seconda. Okay, all right, thumb down. It's a stick, but you can still hold it like a sword. Okay, Alicia, be careful. Your point is drooping. So with this particular exercise, the idea is that your well-formed prima is as straight as you can make it, and it does not drop in the lunge. Yeah, that's better. Dan, watch out for your shoulder. It's a little it's a little tense. Yeah, Katrina. Sorry, sorry, I can't tell from here. That's prima you're doing, right? Can't hear you. Was that prima or seconda? Prima. Okay. Yeah, you're muted. Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure because.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to make. Your hand was above your shoulder, so I just wanted to make sure that was prima.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't have a real handle, so my hand's sliding on it a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and transition to seconda. So we'll start by drawing the prima, and then go to seconda. So natural prima, natural seconda, well-formed seconda. Keep that shoulder relaxed. Start stepping. Slightly wider pace. Right? The lower the sword, the more the foot can come forward. Stay in the pipe. Now the lunge of seconda is going to go under the sword as long and low as you can make it. And as long as low as you can recover from, obviously. And for shits and giggles, go ahead and go for a Hail Mary pass. Remember that illustration of the pass. Your head's under your butt. So one thing, guys, I want you to try and work on, with the high guards especially, we're working the Fabris postures right now. I want you to try to see how far you can get, how far forward you can get your face, how deep a lean you can do, still maintain balance, still maintain your mobility. With the high guards, it's especially important for the reasons that he talks about, right? Higher the sword, the more exposed you are down below. So you take away all the targets underneath. Now, one more thing we can do is go ahead and draw to a common stance, a Capo-Ferro stance, and go ahead and transition to these guards. Right? So, start by coming to here, coming to here, coming to here. Here, the seconda, the seconda. All right? So from a more comfortable way of fencing to making yourself that lean, mean spear that he wants to ram through his opponent. Rabin, keep your left arm relaxed. By the way, I've been working on my left hand lunges. Figure what else have I got to do? Dan, nice lunge, but recover from it now.
I locked my shoulder out on the lunge and wanted to figure out why I did something so dumb.
Okay. Well, allow yourself. Okay. So here, guys, good lesson there. When you come to these guards, when you perform an action with these guards, pause every step of the way. Check to see how you feel. Is something too tense? Is something in the wrong position? Right? This is your opportunity to really fine-tune your actions for maximum mechanical efficiency and for maximum ergonomics. Right? If something feels wrong, it probably is wrong, beyond the fact that all rapier feels wrong. Right? So, in other words, pause after each action, and coming to guard as an action. Make the little adjustments that make it feel better, make it make more sense. But keep an eye on yourself. Keep doing this in a mirror, because you can't make an adjustment that actually makes it not the guard. Right? Mo, you're looking at me crazy.
Nope, just thinking.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. All right, guys. So that's about all we got time for. So we got to the high guards. We will, next week, we'll do a little bit of the same, and we'll look at, we'll look at some of those funky quartas. And we'll also, I will have by that point a little video for you with a kind of a Fabris dance, right? A guard transition dance that take things, from one logical place to another, but try to use all the drills, all the guards as possible. If you haven't seen it, just for the sake of looking at form and smoothness of action, take a look at the video that Rob and I did of Fabris's plate 1 through 20. Basically, we go through all of the first 20 plates, one after the other, mirroring each other, nonstop, just flowing from one position to another. So that'll give you an idea of how you should be moving through these things. Okay, anybody have any final questions? Nope. Okay, guys. Okay, so didn't get quite as far as I want to, but it's a good start. So you can take the same idea. Thanks, Alicia. You can take the same idea. You can forge on ahead and look at the other guards. If you want to send me any video of yourself making any of these guard transitions, forming the guards, please do so. I'll comment during the weeks. I'll send you reviews during the week, so you don't have to wait till next Thursday. Okay. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot.